Hi, this is Joseph Pope. This is interview for Speech 101 with Miss Reed. Obviously, my name is Joseph Pope, and here today I'm going to be talking to Seth Horton, a friend of mine that is at Union University right now in Jackson, Tennessee. He has a unique story on atheism and a turn to Christianity. So, introduce yourself, Seth.
Hello, I'm Seth Horton. I'm being interviewed today by Joseph Pope.
Yep, that's Seth. Could you, clarify that we are best friends and we've known each other for a while?
Yes, we're best friends, and we've known each other for the past 3 or 4 years, something like that.
Yes, just like that. So, Seth, today we're going to talk about your past with atheism and your turn to Christianity. So, tell me, first of all, what makes an atheist? In your definition, what makes an atheist?
What makes an atheist, I would say, is a lack of belief in God, which is to say that you can tell me, God exists, but I'm not going to believe you unless you supply me with sufficient evidence and reasoning as to the probability and necessity of a God.
Okay. So how would you say that applied to you? Tell me your story of being an atheist.
Yeah. When I was a kid, your parents take you to church and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
by the time I was probably 5 or 6 or something like that, and I found out, fairy tales don't exist, Santa Claus doesn't exist. I kind of grouped God and the Bible in with that because I kind of viewed it as a glorified Aesop's fable. So I find out those things don't exist, and my mind goes to, well, God must not exist either. And it kind of snowballed from there. As I grew older, I was buying into, theories of evolution, the Big Bang Theory, and some of these things I still believe to this day, but I can incorporate it with my faith in such a way that it still works.
Okay. So tell me about what time did you turn from that and basically learn that there is a God in your mind and all that.
So I think I came out as an atheist to my peers going into high school, so into 9th grade, telling people, hey, I'm an atheist, because I saw other people coming out saying, hey, I'm homosexual or I'm transgender or something like that. And I figured if they can do that, I can tell people I'm an atheist. And I got a lot of flack for it. I had people walk up to me, curse me out because of my lack of faith and all those kinds of things. And so to me, the best way to get back at them was to prove them wrong. And so I did research. I looked into a bunch of different religions. I looked into trying to find out why they were wrong and I was right. And eventually, I came to a head knowledge that I had been wrong. After listening to prominent atheists like Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris, big name atheists, and I came to the conclusion that I had been wrong and that there was at least a God, but I wasn't ready to submit my life to him until I met the group of guys that is now my best and closest friends, which would be, of course, you, David, Tripp, Hudson. And so once I met these guys and once I met people who claimed to be Christians, who actually treated other people like Christians are supposed to, live out their faith and actually treating other people with different views with respect and dignity, it kind of switched a gear in my mind because I thought until then that all Christians were these immoral, terrible people who only wanted to condemn other people to hell. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of changed my mind on an emotional level and a spiritual level to commit myself to God.
Okay. So, what would you say the biggest moment to realizing that was a hopeless, or not hopeless, but just like you were done with all that? Like, do you remember the date or something? Like, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think the date might have been July 16th of 2012, maybe. I was on a mission trip. Before I was a Christian, I would go on mission trips with the church just because I like to make life better for other people. I like to bring smiles to other people's faces. It made me feel like I was doing something with my life. But this particular mission trip had been different for me. Because I go in thinking, no one's ever going to change my mind. The only reason I'm here is to make other people smile. And then I start hanging out with these guys, and I start realizing they're treating me like an actual brother. Like, I'm one of them. And so one night, we have a worship time where we don't really have someone preaching at the pulpit. We just have music playing, and it's a night of prayer. And eventually, in the middle of one song, it was a Leland song. I forget what the name of the song is. I Wonder by Leland. That was the song. And there was a part in the song that had said, "No one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way." Mm-hmm. Now, you know my story. And growing up, I had been under a lot of abuse from, verbal abuse and emotional abuse from my parents, physical abuse from a close family friend before. And I had grown up my entire life thinking, I'm alone, no one loves me, I'm not worth loving, because all I had known is that I'm trash and that I'm worthless, because that's what I had been raised to believe about myself. And so listening to this song and listening to the stories and having come to a head knowledge of, what God and Jesus Christ actually was and what happened, and then meeting these guys who showed me that there are people who can follow Christ and actually be decent people who are trying to live out a life worthy of the calling that they have been called to. And realizing that God actually has a love for me and actually sacrificed himself for my soul that I saw as being unimportant, as being worthless, as being nothing more than trash to be done whatever you will with it and thrown away when you were done with it. That's how I saw myself, and when I heard these things about God, it changed me. And I broke down right there. I sat in my chair.
I do remember that. You were wearing your onesie.
Yes, actually I was. And I sat down with my hand in my face, and I just kind of realized what kind of person that I was. I had been selling drugs, doing drugs. I sold cigarettes to little middle school kids who couldn't mooch them off of their parents or anything, and I sold them at a much higher price than I should have anyway, but I shouldn't have been selling cigarettes to little kids, and I was doing all these terrible, awful things that I should have been doing. I was a thief. I was pushing drugs, and I was doing drugs, whatever anybody would put in my hand. I lived my life to entertain other people and to please myself, and realizing what a horrible monster I had become, and looking at the grace that was staring me in the face the entire time that I had rejected and said, no, I don't want to be a part of that, actively saying to God that I never want to be a follower of you because of the way that your people have treated me. And realizing how wrong that I was and how terrible I had been, thinking, I'm broken. I'm a lost soul that has been broken down to the very core of what I am. And that is a sinful man that didn't want anything to get in the way of his own self-serving purposes. And so it was a very distinctive moment for me to sit there and realize that, and I start kind of bawling my eyes out with my face in my hands, and the next thing I know, I could feel the Holy Spirit kind of descending down upon me. It's a really weird experience for me because I can't really explain it, but I could almost feel like Christ was right there, like with his arm around me, trying to comfort me, console me. And then the next thing I know, I have 10, 15 people gathering around me, praying over me, hugging me, crying on me. And I don't know what to do because I've never been shown love like that before. I've never been shown anything even close to that before. And that was the moment that I knew, like, there's no going back. I can't go back to the life that I had.
All right. Well, I remember that. That was in Mission Field. No, that was in Mission Serve in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yes.
So I remember that. That was a pinnacle time for me also. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about you. So that all happened, and what would you say the biggest, like, after that happened, what would you say was the biggest change? Like, what did you see going back home? Like, the difference between the Seth that believed in no God and the Seth that believes in God and has trusted himself to Jesus Christ. What would you see when you got back home? Like, when did you know? Like, what was the differences between the two?
Oh man, it was really a night and day transformation. It was a complete 180 turn for me. Going from pushing drugs and doing drugs and selling cigarettes and stealing from all these different businesses and people just to make a quick buck, I went from that to carrying around a Bible everywhere I went, not because I wanted to be seen with the Bible, because any chance that I had that I wasn't doing something, I was sticking my nose into the pages of the Word, because I was not, exposed to it as a Christian, at that point. Like, I didn't know. I knew the words that were in there, some of them, but I didn't know what the real meaning and the weight behind them were. So that was a big difference for me. This is very, very different. I went from being the atheist at school that everybody hated and cursed out every chance they got, to literally being called Preacher Seth at school.
Wow. That's incredible. Would you say that one of the biggest things that pushed you away from Christianity was Christians that don't do what they say they believe?
I would absolutely say that at a point in my life, that was definitely the answer. Before I had come out as an atheist, I didn't really pay attention to the way Christians lived. I knew to myself, what truth was and this, that, and the other. But when I came out as an atheist and I started doing more research and really getting into what I believed and why I believed it, the more people behaved like that towards me, the more it pushed me away. And on one hand, it forced me to seek out what the real truth was so I could prove them wrong. But on the other hand, when I finally did find the truth, and I mentally knew the truth, the way that they had treated me kept me from accepting it.
Mm-hmm. So, now that you've changed, 4 years from now, Seth right now is at a Christian college, Union University, and he's doing great work for the Lord. I'm going to ask him, just to mess with him, a question about atheism, but also something that pertains towards nowadays athletes and coaches professing their faith. But let me just ask you this, Seth. So these group of atheists in Alabama look to take on Dabo Swinney, the coach of Clemson, because they feel that he is pressing his faith to his players, when in reality he's living out his faith and the players are gravitating towards it, just like Jesus would. So How do you feel about the atheists that are coming after him in that sense? Like, would you have gone after someone? Because I've heard you tell me once that, like, why would we go after Christians when in reality, I don't believe you, so why should we make a big ruckus about it? Like,
yeah, the way I saw it, because I've been an atheist when I played soccer in high school, and they would pray before every game. And I think after every game, I'm not really sure, but me being an atheist, I just kind of stood to the side. Like, I sat there, I put hands on the person next to me, but I didn't pray. I didn't commit myself to it. And it wasn't, to me, I'm just kind of a laid-back person when it comes to these kinds of things. Like, I just didn't care. It was no big deal to me. As far as these atheists go that are pushing on Dabo Sweeney, I'm a little biased against Clemson, I'll admit, but to be honest, I don't see it as being that big of a deal. I think if he's making his players participate in prayer or Bible study or something like that, that's on him, and the school should take care of that. But these guys, they live in Alabama, and they're nowhere near them, and I just think that they're kind of overreacting a little bit. I can see where they're coming from, and I think Dabo has the right to pray to himself. I think he has the right to offer, prayer, leadership and stuff like that to the players, but the players have the right to say yes or no. So ultimately, I think that we should give these people their liberty and their right to say, yes, I want that, or no, I don't want that.
Well said, my friend. I'm going to let you go.
All right.
But just know that I really appreciate this, and I hope that people can live on and know through your story. Future atheists can understand. But I really appreciate this, and I thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Okay, so this is Joseph Pope, and this is my interview project. This is Seth Horton. Give him a hello, Seth.
Hello.
And goodbye.